technical setup here. All right, so short introduction. Yeah, Tom Lilge from Humboldt University, Gamelabberlin. My personal story is that I am a philosopher and theater scientist, and I spent like half of my life in criticizing. Okay, so I was really deep in theory and analytics, in French philosophy, in Holocaust theory, whatever, and I loved criticizing. I was really good at it, and I wrote a book against capitalism, and then I got bored. At this point, something else happened, and it came up that I was co-founding Gamelabberlin and made an entire switch into design, which was pretty close also to what I have done before, because I was not only a philosopher, but also theater doing theater. Anyway, since 8 years, I'm co-editing Gamelabberlin, and Gamelabberlin is also an interesting story because it also came out of a small catastrophe, because these were scientists in an interdisciplinary context, and they were some of them were too egocentric to be successful in their separate projects, and then my one was failing too. So we were thinking about what is like the connection point of this generation, video gamers, socialized with video games. And we thought about, let's just give it a name. Let's call it Gamelabberlin. And this became like a hub of really great scientists from all over Humboldt University, but also Berlin. And playfulness and games, they enhance all that what we are aiming for if we are looking for the donut economy, I would say. They could also harness different behavior, but they can at least shape behavior. Now, to the point of prototyping, there are lots of framework out there, right? So this is not going to be a lecture about one of these frameworks. It's more that I give you some terms, just go over to you, and then you can look it up by yourself. One thing that I learned getting into digital, sorry? Questions? No, okay, I heard something, sorry. One thing I learned when I started with this digital projects, if you are a software developer, you know that, but most of the others, they are probably not familiar with that. It's called Agile Development. And the huge thing about Agile is that you don't define a goal and the requirements, and then you build it and you throw it to the market. Because in software engineering, they found out that often this product then doesn't match with the needs of clients or whatever. So what you do instead is that you stay agile and open. And this is something I think it's also important for the procedure that we are confronted with. So stay open and use a framework that enables that. There are lots of different frameworks, as I said, lots of buzzwords. Another one is like iterative development, right? Thinking in iterations. You might have heard that. And one framework you can have a look at a little bit closer. It's not that I say this is the game where game designers work with, but it's a good starting point. And maybe you've heard about that. It's design thinking. Yeah, and there are like very structured phases of how to prototype something, not just games. You can use it for games, but also for every other thing. And I will just point on the different phases and say some words about them. The first phase is empathize. Okay, empathize. That's what we are in the middle of it right now. So the breakout rooms were already empathizing. It's about getting really familiar about what you think you want to design. And you don't know it at the starting point. Right now, we are very, from a very broad perspective, we are talking about ecosystems, economy, and whatever. But if you dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and you start talking to people, there was this one saying that the communities are so different. So although maybe capitalism is the biggest economic system right now, it's super different if you are in India or in Canada. Empathize, I have such a problem as a German with this word, empathizing. It's about making you familiar with these communities. So talk to them and really feel it, okay? Next phase is then define. So once you're like really close to the problem, the challenge, the obstacles, the goal, whatever it is, you can start to define what you want to do. And this goes back and forth, like with all the phases. Once you start to define, then you might step back into the first phase again. Next phase is ideation. We already have done this too. So, and this is a, you can clearly see that like these phases, they, you know, they are connected. It's not clearly to differentiate all the time. But then you have ideas. And the important thing about ideas, and it was nice to see that everyone is able to do that here, is throw them out, right? Ideas are there, millions, like stars. And we may not be jealous if someone else has a better idea or whatever. At the end, the players decide. And then you start building, okay? This is about prototyping. There's the name for the first time. You start building something. This can be super simple. And I had a pre-call with Sophia, and I think her first sketch is wonderful. Yeah, for our products, we have sketches that are like so much worse because we are super bad as graphic designers. So this was a wonderful first sketch, and you start like that. Even if you plan a super complex computer program, you start with paper computers. And then the next, and maybe the most important thing, is testing. Okay, you can think whatever you want and you think it's the greatest idea in the world. At the end, someone else will decide if that's true or not. And this is also like the most complicated part, because it's not really easy to test, because your mom's gonna like it, whatever, also your grandmom and your friends maybe too. So it's not so easy to get really good test results and to find good testers too. And if you test, this goes then again back to prototyping, because you refine, you change, you implement different game mechanics. Maybe you change the entire thing because you see, I don't know, something went wrong in the entire procedure. We have to start from scratch. This happens most of the time. One thing about specific about game design is in this testing phase, there are game designers who say 70% of game design is balancing. So at the moment where you think everything is pretty much ready, the balancing starts or becomes again super important, because this is like how it feels between anxiety because the system is too complex, too fast or whatever, and that things get boring. And you have to balance between anxiety and boredom to get into the flow of the play and the game. And this is the most important part in the design procedure. Now, this is the framework, design thinking. You can have a look. Let me say something about interdisciplinarity. In general, as we are such a heterogeneous, diverse group, which I love, and I love also the internationality here. It's just amazing to see like this global community. Language is super important, because even though sometimes the other person uses the same terminology, it might not mean the same thing. Okay, so we have to be patient and to listen and to let the people tell their story. Because it's, I mean, just talking to Stefan, you know, he's a biologist, and the other thing I already forgot, but I wrote it down. I learned so much from that, but I have to listen, and then I have to use his terms and ask, is that what you mean? Because only then I've learned it. And then we come to other results, only then we come to other results than we would come if we just do what we can. If we just put game designers on that task, it would become a great game, right? But we need all of you. And that's why it's so important to be really sensitive with the language. If I have 3 or 4 minutes more, I don't know, I can tell a short story about a journey we had with an idea to a product, which we might benefit from, but I don't know if we have the time. Sophia?
Go for it. You know, yeah, I think it's important to, your experience is just really giving people so much. So
okay, I love to accelerate. Okay, so I'm doing this really quick. I mean, the idea was so there are no bad ideas, but we had the idea maybe we find something which is not a to-do list and not a calendar and not a self-management program to optimize ourselves, okay? Because we have, like all of you, super complicated lives and always too less time and whatever. And then we thought, okay, we're game designers, so let's start to design a game. And it started super simple, just on a whiteboard, a circle with segments and with real life goals, saying, for me, for example, I'd like to learn Spanish, but I don't do it. And nothing I've tried out helps. So this game helped for the first time because we designed it in a way that you played it just with yourself, and you had rewards which you defined by yourself. And so Singleton started. That's the name of the game now. And then we iterated a lot. We were testing a lot. People became interested, and it transformed to a card game. And every card is a micro intervention. That's how we call it now. The micro intervention, like do this or that, or think this or that. These are always small nudges that you can do in real time right now. And you have 5 cards, like in a real card game, in your hand, and like 100 cards which contribute to your goals. Okay, and with every single step you reach this goal, you come closer to the goal. And that's what game design is all about, because you define a goal, as we are doing with the Doughnut economy, and then we kind of segment the big goal into small steps. How can we get there? What decisions do we have to do to come closer? And the funny thing is that we tested it and people became more and more amazed. And now to make the story really short, we spinned it out from the university. So I'm also an entrepreneur. And now it's a product, which is amazing because we would never thought that this happens. And it works. And this is the most greatest thing that you can experience as a game or experience designer, that your thoughts, that they work out. And just to give you an example, because it's also encouraging that people are open for games and also open for behavioral change, because we now use this software for big companies if they want to change. And we have a participatory procedure, and we design these micro interventions with them together. Then it gets a game, which they play over the course of 4 or 6 weeks. And at the end, they have actually changed their behavior, but they did not even realize it because they were just playing a game. So I wanted to share this story with you because it's a little bit about prototyping. It's about stupid ideas getting successful. And it's about that people really want to change, and that game can really help them to change their behavior. All right, Sophia, thank you.